Hello, everyone. We are Bleeding Blue and Gray, and this is our second ever live stream. We're going to be talking about Dayton versus Georgetown, which is happening on Thursday on Thanksgiving. We're going to have a Dayton podcaster joining us shortly. But yeah,
Hey guys, if you haven't already, please check out the episode that just dropped this morning. That was with UD Pride. That was an hour discussion uh, previewing the game. And tonight we're going to get a little bit of a different perspective from a different Dayton blogger.
yeah. We're just trying to get him on.
He'll be joining us shortly. His name's Tyler Cronin.
But yeah, we have a big weekend ahead of us, especially for Georgetown, but in all of college basketball in general. We play Dayton, of course, and then it's going to be either Miami or BYU, which if we beat Dayton, it's most likely going to be BYU. So it's a big week if we want to be ranked. It's games we have to win. And I'm very excited to watch some Big East basketball instead of football on Thanksgiving.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to send the.
I just sent it to him.
Or you emailed them? Okay.
Yeah. But we have a lot to talk about. We talked about a lot with Chris, who was on yesterday, and we posted the episode this morning about his thoughts about the Georgetown versus Dayton game. And now we always want to have some other perspectives. So here's Tyler now. What's up, Tyler?
Hey guys,
How are you doing?
pretty good. How are you gentlemen today?
Good. Thanks for joining us. Why don't you just give our audience a quick intro to who you are?
Yeah, so I am the host of both the Three Bid League podcast, which is going to be relevant for today, covering the Atlantic 10 for 8 years. Yeah, 8 years now. Just a whole bunch of guests. Myself, my co-host Matt, will actually have a new episode coming out tomorrow talking about some of these upcoming MTEs. We'll be covering this game in a much shorter format than I'm sure we're about to go into here. And then if anybody's interested in the ACC, I also cover that over on the Up the Coast podcast, writing about both of those leagues over on Busting Brackets as well.
And Tyler, what's your background? Did you go to an A10 school?
So I am actually a Dayton alum. So
okay, great. And you grew up in the Dayton area?
No, I am. I'm more in the Duquesne area. So
okay. So Duquesne. And then how did you end up becoming a podcaster?
You just like watching college basketball, and eventually you hatch an idea, and the next thing you know, it's been 8 years and it's still going strong.
So if you had to sum up this year's Dayton team in a sentence or two, what would you say?
It is a team that can physically overpower their opponents or beat them with crisp passing, but is almost never going to beat them by outshooting them.
Yeah, so let's get into it. Yesterday, I don't know if you were able to watch the episode, but we talked with Chris Riemann, who came on the show and was kind of just giving us the overview of Dayton. We talked a lot about how Dayton's going to match up specifically to Georgetown, obviously, because we're a Georgetown podcast. So let's start with just the matchup overview. What is some things that you may be worried about that this Georgetown team may have, and some things that you're very confident on based off Dayton?
Well, anytime you're dealing with a team that has veteran guards as good as KJ Lewis and Malik Mack, you always have to be afraid of them. I think Dayton has good guards to match up with them, but I mean, KJ Lewis also, he probably brings back some horrific memories to Dayton fans for his performance in the tournament game when Arizona beat the Flyers a couple years ago. He hit a few huge shots in the second half. So, yeah, I'd certainly just be worried about the guards. I think Javon Bennett can probably deal with one of them, but where they go with the other may be a difficulty.
And just a question for you, because you mentioned Javon Bennett. He's obviously the focal point for your team, best player. He's at 0.7 points per game. He's playing just amazing. But do you think that if KJ Lewis is matched up against him, that he'll be stopped and won't be able to have as good of a game with how good of a defender KJ Lewis is.
It's certainly possible. I think that this team is also trying to grow into a place where they don't need Bennett to score 17 points a game. They probably want him to be more the facilitator. That's the role that he took on the past couple of years. And one of the big problems they've had is that the front court is just not pulling its weight in terms of putting the ball in the basket. So if that starts to change, then it may not matter, honestly.
Yeah. So for for the starters, I was looking at your starting lineup, and your center, Mao Latang. He obviously isn't the biggest scorer on the team, but he's very efficient. He's a physical player. How do you think he's going to match up against Julius Halafanua?
So I will correct you on your pronunciation, though. We had him on the show a couple weeks ago, so I now know how to say it myself. But Amael Latong, very long guy who can bounce out and shoot the three. He was someone that, myself included, a lot of people saw as a potential huge breakout player. That big breakout has not really come, but he's been more consistent, a better scorer. He's someone that is a really tricky guard on the right night because you just don't find centers with the proper athleticism to guard him who aren't just completely overmatched size-wise.
Yeah. And also Keontae Jones, he's shooting 71% from the 3-point line. Yesterday, Chris was telling us that it's a very small sample size and that we can't really be
Yeah, he's
expecting
taking
him.
7.
Yeah, but
What did he shoot last year?
It was like 28 or 29% at Cal State Northridge, I think.
Okay.
So in your eyes, because this is what I've been hearing from a lot of Dayton fans over this past week while I've been asking questions about this team, shooting seems to be a problem for you guys. It's also a problem for us. Do you think that Keontae Jones or someone could step up in this game shooting shooting from the 3-point line?
Well, Dayton now has actually just kind of gone away from the 3-point shot altogether. They went 2 for 28 from deep against Cincinnati, which, after seeing Cincinnati play Louisville, might just be a byproduct of the Bearcats having an absolutely awesome defense. Then in their game against Marquette, Dayton only took 17, and that included in overtime when Jones hit a big one. So I think if Jones was going to take more threes, it probably would have already started, averaging only about 1 a game. That was right around what he had at Northridge last year. So worst case scenario, if you're a Georgetown fan, is maybe you give up 2 makes to him. I don't see much more than that.
Yeah, and another question for you. I don't know if you have any questions for us, but how big of a factor do you think our defense and depth is going to be compared to you guys who, with Adam Nagy out this entire year, it seems like you guys have a very good starting 5, but after the starting 5, it seems as if it kind of gets lost and you guys don't look like the Dayton team you're supposed to be. So how much of a threat do you think Jeremiah Williams and our defense and our depth poses to you guys?
So it's a mysterious question. And if we had talked here a week ago, I would have said that bench versus bench is a ginormous problem for Dayton. They've had 3 different guys basically have career performances off the bench within the last week. So Jacob Connor came in. He is a 6'9" power forward who we also discovered is the team's emergency 4th-string point guard. He had to cover that role for about 4 minutes in the second half of the Marquette game when Javon Bennett was dealing with cramps. And it was the best performance of his career. He hit what wound up being the game-winning shot in overtime. Jayon Simon, another kind of big forward veteran guy, came in the first half, was really the spark that kind of kept Dayton alive when they were sputtering out early on. And then Malcolm Thomas, Villanova transfer, didn't play a single minute last year. Was a little disconcerting to get someone who was on that Villanova team and couldn't see the floor. Not really a mark of a good player last season, but he has really broken out in the last week as a high-quality backup center. Now, in the backcourt, in Dayton's basically running their 3 starters in the 2 guard spots the entirety of the game. So there is a chance to wear them out, but I mean, Javon Bennett especially has been here before. He was playing over 36 minutes a game 2 years ago. I don't think it's a huge issue, but it's something that the Dayton fans are probably concerned about in the back of their head.
Give us a few good minutes about Javon Bennett.
So undersized guard, he was guy at Merrimack 2 years ago. A terrific program that for the most part has produced tons of awesome players in their league that have struggled to transfer up. And Bennett is really the one great exception. Just kind of a true old school point guard, a guy who is really pass first, pass second, drive third, and then take the three if that's what it comes to. He's a better shooter than the 28% he's putting up this year, but where he really brings the value is both as a distributor and the fact that he is one of the great steals guys, not only in the A10, but in the entire country.
And how does he, obviously he was he 5'10" or something like that, 5'10"?
5'10", I'd say.
How is he able to score against bigger players so well?
It's a combination of shiftiness and deliberance. He is just such an incredibly cerebral player who is going to find the gap if it's there and is small enough and quick enough to kind of shoot the gap. Mm-hmm. And he just has great hands around the rim too.
And which player on Dayton's side that's not Bennett or someone that everyone will be looking for and making sure that they're not playing well, but who's one player that you think maybe will be a sleeper, and if he plays well that you guys will win this game or will make or break this game depending on how that one player plays?
So you mentioned Jeremiah Williams, who, if I'm correct, was a part of that Rutgers disaster last year.
Yeah.
One of the guys who was dragged down on that same crapshoot of a team was Jordan Durkak, who was NEC Player of the Year, funny enough, at Merrimack 2 seasons ago. He got hurt in practice right before the season started. They've been bringing him along slowly. He's just now kind of starting to take on a big minutes load, and he really has just not found himself as a scorer yet. He's turned out to be a fantastic playmaker. He's matching his Merrimack number in assists right now in limited time. He's proven to be a really good backup for Bennett, which was the role that NJ was supposed to play. He's a guy that, if anyone's not familiar, is currently ineligible. There may be some issues regarding a gambling case there, but we don't know very much. If Durkak can find his scoring touch today, which is going to come just crashing the rim and from the mid-range, then that's a guy who can swing a game for Dayton. I don't expect him to continue to be shooting only 4.5 times a game for much longer.
And you talk about Adam Najai, is that how you pronounce his last name?
NJ, I believe.
NJ, yeah. So, again, I said this yesterday in the episode that I went to a lot of his workouts over the summer. I do sports photography as well. I was able to see him play a lot, and he was a very good player. Number one, how much of him not playing, how is that affecting Dayton? And number two, do you think we will see him in a Dayton jersey this year at all?
I mean, we went into the year figuring that this was going to be a 6-man top of the rotation and then a couple of random guys fighting for bench spots. Now, those random guys, the Connors and the Simons and the Thomases, have been better early on than I think a lot of people expected, and it's helping to cover this up. But NJ was supposed to be the 6th man for this team. He was supposed to be the backup point guard. And they are now in a world where if either Bennett or Durkak suffers an injury at any point, this team is borderline screwed, especially if it's Bennett. They just have no other ball handlers on this team.
How does Dayton try to win games?
It's going to be getting downhill. Bennett, Jones, and then a guy that somehow we haven't mentioned to this point, and that's probably on me, Deshane Montgomery, transfer in from Georgia, someone who was a dynamite shooter at Mount St. Mary's a couple years ago. He's the only guy who's making threes for Dayton at this point, but he is really killing opponents at the rim, shooting 61% on the year on nine attempts a game. It's honestly outrageous. but they're just going to put relentless pressure on you at the basket. This is a very slow, methodical offense that is going to look for the right pass and the right drive before they take it.
And Tyler, just how are you feeling about this game as a Dayton fan and then as a podcaster? Because I know that those could be two different ideas and thoughts. But how are you feeling about this game going into it on Thursday? Maybe who's going to win? What you're expecting from both teams?
So this is a game that I've kind of penciled in for a while as one that Dayton should win. Now, my opinion of Georgetown has shifted in the last couple of weeks after what I personally thought was a demolition of Clemson, even though the final score didn't quite say that. I expect a pretty even game at this point, but I would pick Dayton by 3, 4 if you were asking me to make a prediction.
Yeah, and also like how many points do you think will be scored in this game by each team? What do you think it's going to be in like the 70s and 80s, or do you think it's going to be a more of a low scoring game?
Can you guys win a game in the 70s?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean they beat Dayton held Marquette to 71 in overtime, so
Yeah.
I think Dayton is going to be extremely comfortable in the 70s and maybe even more comfortable in the 60s.
Mhm.
It's when things start pushing the envelope where they're going to get uncomfortable.
And how does Dayton? How would you describe Dayton's defense and how they attack offenses?
So Bennett is really kind of the head of the snake, pushing for steals all the time. And then behind him, it's honestly pretty conservative. They know that they have Latong hanging around the rim. Keontae Jones is an absolute menace. He is a guy who can take the ball away from you off the dribble or on the shot. They're going to use their length behind Bennett to try to disrupt guys. And this is a team that ideally is not going to make a lot of mistakes. And we saw in the Marquette game that they did in the first half, and it really undid them. But Anthony Grant is someone who just kind of philosophizes being as careful as you can be.
Yeah. Do you have any questions on the Georgetown side of things?
Yeah. So, well, first off, Iwachukwu's still out, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
he'll be out for about a month.
Okay, so that's going to help Dayton, obviously. Like, how has the front court really been without him? Is where I'm most curious.
So we've only had one game, obviously, without him. He's my favorite player on the team. The way he plays and everything. And if we have him, it's a totally different team. Last game we had Julius Halafanua starting as he has every game. He played pretty well, and when he came out, we were kind of playing a small ball 5 with Jaden Fort, who's kind of a power forward, I'd say, but he's extremely athletic, a dog on defense, can slam down the ball. So it kind of we haven't had a real test without Vince. This is going to be our first time, but having a guy like Jaden Fort who's able to slam down that ball and play great defense as a center, even when he's not that size or maybe shouldn't be in at that time, I think it's been fine so far, but we haven't had a real test, so there's no real way to say it. But Rasheen, maybe you have a different opinion on that.
Well, our first game was last Saturday against Wagner. Our first game that we saw
they stink.
Right, what we could look. Yes, Wagner doesn't have a guy taller than 6'7". What this team would look like up front without Vince. Bulk of the minutes are going to go to Julius Halafanua, but then also Jaden Fort and Seal Juve will get minutes. I think the bulk of those, will get between Seal and Jaden. Definitely, Jaden Fort will get more of those. They're both about 6'8", 6'9". Physical, very physical and athletic, but they don't have a lot of experience. Both of them redshirted last year. And Halafanua also, he only played 6 games last year. So it's we're going to be very inexperienced up front, and we're going to figure out
the fans watching us may get a little mad when I say this, but Seal Diouf, if I'm going to be honest, he's not really a problem. I'm expecting him to really get 0 minutes unless Julius Halafanua fouls out, because Seal he's a guy who redshirted. I'm not sure if he ever had the talent to play in the Big East or versus top teams. And Dayton is obviously a game that we need to win. So unless someone gets hurt or there's foul trouble, I'm not expecting to see Seal play at all because he didn't play versus Wagner, which was if you're not going to play against Wagner, I don't know if Ed's going to trust you to play against Dayton. So um, we'll see on that, but yeah, it's gonna be different from what we've been able to play because having two centers that can really go at it and play is something that's very fortunate for any college basketball team. And something that's different this year than last year is when Thomas Sorbo went hurt, we had a guy like who really couldn't play in Big East. He's now at Boise State playing pretty well, but he couldn't really compete in the Big East versus top teams. And this year, when Vince is now out, we have a guy like Juice who can compete with those top teams. So, I mean, we're going to see because it's a big test, but that's also a question I have for the team as well.
Yeah, the only other thing, like, we're starting to get mounting evidence that Dayton's 3-point defense may actually just be bad this year. And it's unclear if that's going to carry over for the remainder of the year, but Cincinnati killed them out there. UMBC killed them out there. Marquette, if you look at the box score, they held them to 29%, but the Golden Eagles absolutely couldn't miss the last 8 minutes of the game, and that's why it ended up in overtime. But it does seem like Georgetown might not be the team to hurt them from out there.
I mean, if I'm going to be honest, the first couple games we weren't able to shoot well versus Wagner. We could def up in us playing better from the three. I'm going to be honest. If we're left open at the 3-point line or we have space, our guys are going to pull it. And there's a few guys on this team that can shoot and shoot pretty well. I feel like Caleb Williams is one of those guys. He's another one of my favorite players. He's had another year this year in a big jump. And then KJ Lewis, obviously, and Malik Mack. Like, if they're open, they're going to shoot it. I wouldn't say that we're a team you should be scared of from the three because we haven't proved that yet. But I feel like you can't leave us open, obviously, because you basically can't leave anyone open from the three. But if we will make some shots, we won't make them all. And I think it's a weakness for both of our teams that we both can't shoot threes. And it's just going to be I don't know. I feel like one team will be able to shoot better than the other, and it's going to be one of the reasons why that whichever team it is wins because of the shooting. I'm just not sure which team that will be. Both have the same weakness.
Yeah, against Wagner, Georgetown was 9 for 21 from 3-point land. That was by far our best performance this season. If we hit 9 3-pointers against Dayton, I would say we win. But we could shoot ourselves. I mean, we've definitely struggled in that area this year. We like to get downhill, like you were saying, and we really thrive in transition. So I think that's going to be the biggest determinant of this game is who controls tempo, who is the more physical team. Obviously rebounds matter, but if Dayton is able to protect the rim without fouling or just keep us out of the lane, then you guys will win. We have to get downhill and we have to get fouled and get to the line.
Yeah, well, between Latong, Jones, and now Malcolm Thomas, and this is a pretty good team at covering up the rim. So there's going to be somebody out there who can block shots at all times.
And are you guys an athletic team? Like athleticism wise, how do you guys look?
About as good as you're going to see from a mid-major. Like this is power conference athletes all over the court.
Yeah. I'm just saying because Georgetown, one thing that I've been able to watch this year, and I've fully loved it, is the athleticism from some of these guys that you kind of wouldn't expect from. Like we see Isaiah Abraham getting up there, Jaden Fork getting up there, and I just feel like I think this game is going to be a very choppy.
Georgetown's a very fast team.
Yeah, we play very fast transition basketball. I feel like it's going to be a very choppy and close game and basically down to the end. I think Georgetown will obviously take it, but I think there's going to be a lot of mistakes that happen, and it's just going to be whichever team can clean up mistakes faster and play better off of it. But if anyone who's watching has any questions, drop it in the comments. I know that we could see YouTube comments. I'm not sure about X, but we'd love to answer your guys' questions. Um, but I have another question for you, Tyler. Just do you think that wait, I just lost it. I had it written down. Which team do you think has a bigger advantage coming into the game?
I
Or
think
maybe
it's probably Dayton because if Georgetown is just not going to be able to outshoot them from deep, I think Dayton's in pretty good shape. That was how they lost the Cincinnati game, plain and simple, was just getting outgunned from the 3-point line, making mistakes, fouling shooters because they were getting desperate. It's how UMBC came back against them. It's how Marquette came back against them. It's really all season long. If their opponents aren't hitting threes, they're looking pretty comfortable.
yeah, yeah, Rasheen, do you have any questions?
Yeah, one in the what I've been able to see from Dayton is you guys really don't turn the ball over much. And what's the key to that? Is that just because of the deliberate pace and just the discipline that Grant demands in terms of shot quality?
Well, I will say they don't turn the ball over much as long as they're not playing Marquette, but that's kind of a given for anybody who runs into that team.
Yeah,
They had 25 against the Eagles. I think last year they had 3 in that game.
three. Yeah.
But yeah, it's the Grant system, and they've gotten a little bit more lively in the last couple of weeks. But you go back and watch like their first 3 games of the year, they're in his kind of ideal swing the ball around the perimeter. It looks like you're trying to watch like a 3-man weave drill out of 1976, and
Mm-hmm.
it's with the goal of just not making mistakes. A lot of times the mistake is they get up a bad contested shot because it gets too late in the shot clock.
What's
Also,
the
Rasheen, they haven't played anyone like KJ Lewis on defense yet, so it may be very different when you're playing a guy who's the best defender in the country according to Ed Cooley compared to guys that are from Cincinnati and Marquette. We have a question. I think it's from Casey from our network. I'll put it up. He said Dayton is number 7 in the country in forcing turnovers, and Georgetown is number 5 at not turning the ball over. How could each team find a way to keep their strength a strength?
I
Whoever
think
wants to take it.
I think it probably comes down to Bennett against. I'm not sure if he's going to guard Mack or Lewis off the jump, but I think that's the matchup to watch.
Mhm.
Rasheen, what about you?
I was going to ask him about when Dayton um, struggles. Is it ball pressure? Is it physicality? What disrupts them on offense?
I think it's more their own shot not going down.
So they can't be sped up. They have to beat themselves, is what you're saying.
And Bennett coming out of the game, you can speed them up if Bennett's not running the show, but when he's out there, it's incredibly tough to do.
Yeah, and I'll answer the question that Casey asked
Okay, so
really quickly. But I think that how can each team find a way to keep their strength the strength? Well, Georgetown, they've played teams like Dayton before in the defensive side. They've played Maryland and Clemson and also Kentucky. So I feel like we're gonna keep it similar. I think more of the question is on the Dayton side of being able to force turnovers versus a team like Georgetown who has played teams. They've proven that they're not going to turn the ball over. And I'm actually very surprised that we're number 5 at not turning it over because some games it looks pretty messy out there, and it looks like we're turning over the ball a few times. But I'm very confident in our team's performance with how we've played versus these big teams. I feel like more of the question, which Tyler could kind of talk about, is Dayton keeping it to be forcing turnovers versus a team like Georgetown.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is Georgetown just taking the right shots at the rim
Yeah.
because Dayton's going to be hawking for it.
Mm-hmm. And how I think you brought up Vince Uwuchukwu earlier in the show. your guys' backup center is how tall?
Oh, honestly, Malcolm Thomas probably ideally a power forward. He's like 6'9", but
Yeah.
he has linebacker thickness to him.
Yeah, that's so. What I was thinking was basically Vincent Wuchuku being able to play is another 7'1" guy who is going to be able to run down your centers, and him not being there, then we have Jaden Fort, who's basically a 6'9" power forward, who's a very athletic guy. I feel like it's gonna be a big matchup, backup centers in this game, and I think that they could definitely be two major deciders. If your what was your backup center's name again? Sorry for
Malcolm Thomas.
yeah, if Malcolm Thomas, and he was the one who came from Villanova.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if Malcolm Thomas plays well and he's able to perform and play better and outscore Jaden Fort and play better on defense, I feel like you guys could get this game. And I think if Jaden Fort can do that, then Georgetown will get that game. But I feel like a lot of it will be determined on bench points and how the bench plays when our best players, like KJ Lewis is out, Malik Mack is out, but also when Javon Bennett's out and players you need to be in and have been able to perform. Rasheen, do you have any last questions?
I don't. I don't. Just want to hear a prediction from Tyler about the score.
I'll go. Let's go 68-64. Game starts out a little sleepy, just like we all will be by the time this comes on. But yeah, I think it starts out slow. We get a pretty fun second half. Dayton narrowly edges it out.
Yeah, I'll give my score prediction as well because it's changed from yesterday. I'd say Georgetown's going to put up 83 points. That's basically our average. We average 82.2, and Dayton will put up 77. So I think it's going to be a 6-point game. Dayton averages as well 80 points, but I think it goes back to the point that they haven't played a team to the defensive capability of Georgetown. And if we could play well, I think it will be a problem for Dayton, especially defensively. But as I said, it's going to be a close, choppy game. It's going to come down to the wire, in my opinion. It's just going to be who can pull away, who can play better in late game situations, and who's going to be more disciplined and show that they have more experience and really want it and want the win. Rasheen, do you have a score prediction?
Yeah, 75-70 Georgetown. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a slog the whole time, I bet. And my guess is nobody will have a double-digit lead at any time in this game. It's going to it's really going to come down who, not unlike the Clemson game, who's the more physical team and who can control the pace.
And Tyler, just last quick before we end the stream. So obviously we play each other. Whoever wins moves on. I'm assuming that you think BYU will kind of beat Miami without any problems. Do you think either Georgetown or Dayton can beat BYU?
So first preface, I do not think that actually. I would pick BYU to win, but Miami's front court size, as we saw against Florida, is going to be problematic for everybody. So I don't think anyone, whether it's BYU or Duke or Louisville later in the season, is going to have an easy win over the Hurricanes. But to answer your question, yeah, I think both teams can potentially beat BYU just because of the guard play. You're going to have to match Debansa and Wright and Saunders, and these guys both have the mature veterans to be able to do that on the right night.
Yeah, 100. I completely agree. I think either of our teams could win it all in this tournament, and I wish the best of luck to you guys, obviously, even though I'm still hoping for a Georgetown win. But thank you so much for joining the stream.
Thanks, Tyler.
Always love having guests, and yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Fun.